Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the Holy Cross Vision Council. Today, our group will be presenting our findings that we have collected throughout the 2012 Holy Cross Vision Council Consulting Project. My name is Michael Bider, and I'm going along with my four colleagues who I'll now introduce, starting with Mr. David Allegria, who will be presenting our primary research collection and analysis, followed by Mrs. Renee Townsend, who will be presenting secondary research. Next will be Ms. Carolyn Burnett. She will be presenting a brief overview of our findings, and will be concluded by Mr. Michael Mann, who will present our recommendations and conclusions. And as I briefly touched on earlier, our purpose is to present the HCBC with recommendations based on our research that we have conducted over this last semester. We would also like to discuss means for implementing these recommendations for next semester. I'd now like to pass it off to our primary data analyst, Mr. David Allegria.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. As Michael mentioned, my name is David, and I will be discussing with you our primary research process. First, I want to discuss a little bit in detail of our process of developing the survey as well as collecting data. So, the purpose of this survey is to measure the willingness and interest of the community from the School of Management and Business to see what kind of community service project they would be willing to volunteer for. Now, the process of developing the survey first started with each consulting group developing their own survey, and in the end, as a class, we all reviewed each other's questions, and we suggested which ones would be the best fit to come up with one solid survey to distribute to the community. The population size of the School of Management and Business is 1,650 people. However, there were only 313 surveys that were distributed. Out of these 313 surveys that were distributed was based on 165 undergraduates, 90 graduate students, 45 new college students, and 13 faculty and staff. So a process we had to go through is come up with which surveys would be valid or invalid. So as we were analyzing the results, we saw that many invalid surveys were invalid because they were incomplete, or students or faculty or staff did not follow instructions. So with that in mind, we decided to take those off and not include them towards our final results. Also, students sometimes chose several options for potential community service projects, so we included those towards the final results as well, so that skewed our results a little bit. So moving on to our analysis, as you can see in the report that we distributed to you, you will see there are various charts that included the percentages based on survey respondents on what they answered. But for this presentation, we decided to show the preferred group chart because we thought that was the most important. So as you can see, there are many popular groups that the community of the School of Management and Business desired to work with, such as the impoverished, the homeless, or the disabled. But ultimately, the preferred group that they decided to work with was the disadvantaged and at-risk youth. As you can see our percentages, 31% of the sample size decided to work with this preferred group. So other results that we found through gathering data, we saw that the community was willing to participate once a month from 1 to 4 hours. Also, their motivation was the desire to help others. In addition, there were some alternatives to this question, such as resume building, extra credit, or simply just gaining more service hours. And finally, the preferred activities that the community would like to do with this preferred group is to just spend time with them or just hand out food or other various activities. Now I will pass it on to my other colleague who will be discussing the secondary research.
Thank you. Hi everyone. As Michael said earlier, I'm Renee, and I'm going to be going over our secondary research today. We began by researching the Holy Cross Vision Council, and we found that their mission is to challenge and inspire students, faculty, and staff to make a positive difference in the community. And we believe we found a project that perfectly aligns with this mission. As David stated earlier, out of the three main themes of this year of displacement, refugees, and migration, the survey results showed that displacement, specifically displacement of children, was the area of the Austin community that the School of Management and Business was would most like to address with their volunteer work. The survey results allowed us to narrow down our research to specifically the topics of at-risk and disadvantaged youth. Through our research, we determined that at-risk youth can be defined as a child who is beyond the control of his or her parent and whose behavior endangers the health, safety, and welfare of themselves or others. At-risk youth usually face barriers such as poverty, instability within the family unit, and poor peer influences, which can lead to an at-risk lifestyle. A recent study done by the National Center for Education Statistics found that every year a child lives in poverty, their chance of graduating from high school greatly decreases. However, disadvantaged youth should not be confused with, or at-risk youth should not be confused with disadvantaged youth, who can be defined as those who are lacking the basic necessities or advantages to life, such as adequate housing, medical care, or educational facilities. It is clear how these two groups rose to the top of our list, as they both have significant needs that need to be addressed. After conducting extensive research on the at-risk and disadvantaged youth, we then focused on finding an organization that revolved around the theme of displacement and that also that the School of Management Business would be interested in volunteering with. We looked at many different groups such as Boys and Girls Club of America and Active Life, but we ultimately decided on American Youth Works, a local nonprofit organization focusing on empowering at-risk youth through education, service, and green jobs training. I'm now going to hand off to our next presenter, who's going to be going over our findings.
Hi, I'm Carolyn. I'm going to be talking to you all about our findings. So based on our primary and secondary research, we were able to draw a few different conclusions about what our project would look like. First of all, we decided that it would benefit disadvantaged or at-risk youth. We knew that it would last 1 to 4 hours and occur monthly. We also decided that it would involve handing out food and other necessities or spending time talking and hanging out with kids. So next we decided it was important to better define the group that we're working with so that we can help them in the best way. So disadvantaged youth, like Renee said, lack life's basic necessities. And then at-risk kids are more prone to other issues, and they don't necessarily lack food, shelter, or safety. So specifically, American Youth Works benefits at-risk kids by helping them through tutoring and other projects like counseling. But they have a lot of experience working with volunteers from the professional and educational and fields. So that's one reason that it would be good for St. Edward's students. Also, they mainly focus on GED tutoring, sometimes like with kids that need help graduating. But basically, St. Ed students would be going over there and tutoring these kids who are primarily in high school but are from a range of ages. And next, Michael is going to be talking to you more about our proposal.
So as Carolyn mentioned, Michael Mann, and I'm going to be going over our recommendations. As she explained, we decided to work with American Youth Works, who's based here in Austin. We did have one alternative, which was the Austin Children's Center, but they had some age requirements. They required people to be 21 to work with their children, so we decided that that wasn't suitable given the fact that some undergrads are under the age of 21. Why we chose this organization? We think it suits the resources we have here at St. Edward's. It's very close to campus. It's just down the road on Ben White, on the other side of 35. And we believe it in all the requirements of the service project. So how it would work is members of the S&D would tutor at-risk youth one-on-one. We would volunteer once a month, and due to the proximity, we think it would be appropriate for everyone to provide their own transportation. In order to reach full participation, we would have to average about 22 volunteers a day, and that would allow everyone to participate at least once during the semester. Here are our proposed dates, and this gives time for students to finalize their schedules, because the 18th is the last add or drop day, and then a week before finals on the May 3rd. And then we also allowed there to be no hours during spring breaks if there's no student conflict scheduling. So we chose this because we believed it aligned with all the requirements of the HCBC by affecting at-risk youth. And we decided that we would measure the success of this project by looking at the grades both of the kids that we're tutoring and also with a post-service survey in which students can provide feedback on how they, what like the level of satisfaction they had on the project or any changes they see fit. We think it would be easiest to sign up via email that a student coordinator would kind of group and put students and staff on certain days. We believe that it would be most effective to email the advertisements, similar to some of the other projects on campus. Hopefully, we would like to continue this project into the next year. But we do see that there's one risk, and that is that we may have too many volunteers for the organization to handle at one time. So just to recap, Michael spoke about the purpose. David provided the difference between, or differentiated the difference between at-risk and disadvantaged youth. Renee covered the survey results, and Carolyn discussed the findings and why we believe that Austin American Youth Works is the best organization for this project. So we'd like to thank all of you for being here, and at this time we'll field any questions.
Do disadvantaged at-risk youth actually go to the center, the American Youth Works Center?
Yeah.